The 2026 Atlantic hurricane season is officially active. Just hours before St. Kitts and Nevis' Prime Minister Dr. Terence Drew, in his capacity as Minister of National Security, met with the National Disaster Committee and other stakeholders at the headquarters of the National Disaster Management Agency, NEMA. In the opening session of the meeting, the Prime Minister stated the following, quote, "When a disaster hits, it affects everyone, and so we need to be ready. We should be ready to respond swiftly, protect lives and property, and ensure that our communities can recover as quickly as possible. Preparedness is not the responsibility of one agency alone. It requires the commitment and cooperation of all of us," end quote. Presentations on the hurricane season were made by Deputy National Disaster Coordinator at NEMA, Julian Rachaw, and Meteorological Officer Daniel Dixon. The Caribbean Disaster Emergency Management Agency, CDEMA, marked the start with a recently held press conference at which Executive Director Elizabeth Riley reminded member countries to be prepared.
Today we are marking the start of the 2026 Atlantic hurricane season, which begins on June 1 of this year. At CDEMA, our work is ultimately about people, the safety of our families, the security of our communities, the protection of livelihoods, and the resilience of our participating states. Every plan we develop, every exercise we conduct, and every partnership that we pursue is directed towards saving lives and reducing losses when hazards occur. The Atlantic hurricane season officially runs from June 1 to November 30, but we in the Caribbean know that readiness cannot be confined to those dates, as we experience many types of hazards throughout the year. The 2026 hurricane season comes at a time when the Caribbean continues to face complex risks from hazards. But we also enter the season with experience, lessons learned, partnerships, and a renewed commitment to readiness. Over the years, our region has demonstrated remarkable strength and solidarity in responding to the impacts of hazards. Our long-standing regional commitment to solidarity is even more important at this time, given geopolitical shifts and the uncertainties associated with it. We have also seen firsthand the importance of preparedness, coordination, and timely action, which have continued to shape our commitment to strengthening regional cooperation, regional self-reliance, and supporting our participating states in reducing disaster risks, improving readiness and response capacities.
According to the U.S.-based National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, NOAA, the Atlantic hurricane season that runs from June 1st to November 30th is expected to be below normal due to a variety of atmospheric conditions that will hamper hurricane formation. To date, NOAA predictions suggest a 35% chance of a near-normal season, a 10% chance of an above-normal season, and a 55% chance of a below-normal season. However, 8 to 14 named storms are forecasted at this point for the 2026 Atlantic hurricane season. Glenn Bart reporting for Television Caribbean, TVC Channel 40.
Now to Cuba in crisis. A new report says U.S. oil restrictions affecting the island have paralyzed the distribution of tons of food. The restrictions are part of the Trump administration's pressure campaign on the Cuban regime to bring about political and economic change. CBS News Miami's Manuel Bojorquez is your reporter with the latest on tensions between the two countries.
Shipments that included tons of powdered milk arrived in Cuba over the weekend, donated by the governments of Mexico and Uruguay. 15,000 pregnant women and 10,000 children with chronic conditions will be among the recipients, says this man identified as a head of the agency overseeing the distribution. But other shipments are barely moving, according to a report by the Spanish network EFE. The report says 20,000 tons of food from the UN's World Food Program are stuck or barely moving in Cuba due to U.S. restrictions on oil reaching the island. The restrictions are part of the Trump administration's pressure campaign on the regime.
Y cambiarla si quieren cambiarla.
But at this event at Miami's Museum of the Cuban Diaspora, people blame the Cuban regime for chronic mismanagement and a failed form of government.
But we must, in fact, push for a new structure, a new government that will assure democracy and freedom for the Cuban people.
The forum focused on using Cuba's 1940 Constitution as a blueprint for a new government on the island. James Kaysen was head of the U.S. Interest section in Havana in the early 2000s.
Now the question is they need to get the Constitution of 1940 to the attention of the public in Cuba, because the Cubans regime said that the history really only started in 1959, so they don't know that there was a Constitution of 1940.
As for food distribution on the island, an organization known as the Food Monitor Program recently accused the Cuban regime of taking donated supplies and reselling them in military-owned stores, something the Cuban government has denied. In the newsroom, Manuel Bajorquez, CBS News, Miami.
With 11 named storms, 1 to 3 possible hurricanes, Managing Director of the Disaster Risk Management Authority, Aaron Sargent, cautions Bahamians not to get too relaxed by the news that this year's hurricane season is below normal. While hoping for the best, he confirms 90 shelters with the capacity to accommodate some 14,000 people will be available whenever disaster strikes.
Most of the shelter inspections have taken place in the Family Islands, but I do note at our briefing this morning, I was advised that there are only about approximately 3 shelters that were not inspected as yet in New Providence. Once they go through the rigorous inspection process that we have revamped since the operationalization of the authority, we have seen a reduction in the number of shelters that we have to drop.
According to the Met Office, the Bahamas experienced a similar season in 1992, but was left dumbfounded when powerful Category 5 Hurricane Andrew devastated the Isle of Eleuthera on August 23rd. In light of this, the DRM authority leader verifies the Abaco Hurricane Shelter has been officially added to the shelter inventory.
All construction work is complete. As you know, during times of disaster, we distribute cots and sleeping supplies to the shelters during those times. So all work in the Abaco shelter. The shelter is ready for use.
Now, to get to this point, Sargent says the DRM authority conducted a regional readiness exercise across 8 Family Islands, empowering local key stakeholders as a way to strengthen their capacity to respond to disasters. The managing director affirms a full report of a national recovery framework is in the final stages and will be drafted before submission.
In the coming weeks, we will submit that framework, which we are nearing completion, to the Interministerial Committee on Disaster Risk Management for their review, approval, and enactment.
On this first day of the 2026 Atlantic hurricane season, the managing director once again sounded the alarm for all Bahamians to get prepared. Officials from the DRM authority say they plan to host a national readiness exercise with all key stakeholders sometime in early July. For the Bahamas Tonight, I'm LaDawn Davis.
This summer, the Caribbean's premier music experience returns. Welcome to the 28th edition of the St. Kitts Music Festival, featuring the incredible Kilani, Fantasia, Beres Hammond, Luciano, Soca King Marshall Montano, Soca Sensation Voice, and Vaughn. Dancehall giant Movado, Idonia, and the new wave, Valiant. Also featuring Massacre, Cranium, Taurus Riley, Steel Pulse, Dean Fraser and the Black Soil Band, Shanil Mir, Diani, Rodney Tatat, and Zoo. The legendary New Vibes Band International, Brandon and ASAP Band, Shelly and Signal Band, plus Edwin Yearwood and Crossfire, Rukas HE, and Garlic and the Upper Level Band. June 25th to June 27th, Warner Park Cricket Stadium, St. Kitts. Get your tickets now at stkittsmusicfestival.com. The St. Kitts Music Festival, where music meets paradise.
A new day begins. The sun rises over St. Martin, bringing new energy, new possibilities. This island was built on resilience, progress, and the strength of its people. Our connection is what moves us forward. It links our communities, our businesses, our families. From the heart of the island to the shores beyond, we've connected St. Martin. From every street to every home, This network was built for St. Martin by St. Martin hands. Connection isn't just about signals, it's about people. This is your island and your network recharged. Proudly local, we're here for today, tomorrow, and every milestone ahead.
At The Cable, we believe in giving back because when our community thrives, we all do. That's why, as a company, we make it our mission to touch the lives of everyone in St. Kitts. We spearheaded the renovation of J&F Hospital lobby to ensure better care for all. The Cable sponsors free Wi-Fi in every community center across St. Kitts, so no one is left behind in an increasingly connected world. We stand with communities through every moment, big or small, in culture, education, youth development, and more. Y a ti también, comunidad latina, cuenta con nosotros, estamos con ustedes. And when it comes to customer service, we set the standard. We're just a call, click, or visit away because you matter to us. Join the company that truly cares. The Cable, more than service. We're family. Somos familia. And we're proud to always give more where it matters.
Lace your sneakers, grab a friend, and get ready for Praise Fest 2026, the Federation's premier gospel concert, in collaboration with St. Kitts Music Festival. Join us on the Antioch Baptist Church grounds as we praise with Tehillah Gospel Band, Unique Touch Christian Center Praise, Brent Hoyt, Positive, and Chevel Franklin. Earthen Vessels will start it off with praise and worship. This all goes down June 21st, 2026, starting at 5:30 p.m. on the Antioch Baptist Church grounds. Secure your tickets at Sister Beverly on 4th Street, Westside Service Center. The Cable, Island Flavors, Charlestown, Nevis, or any member of the Antioch Baptist Church. Or you can go online at www.antiochbaptistskn.org. Islander Water Taxis providing $40 round trip from Nevis to St. Kitts. Be first in line for an unforgettable evening.
Head of the Nevis Island Administration, Premier Mark Brantley, disclosed in his May press conference that the expansion of the Vance Amory International Airport in Newcastle is expected to start soon. The Nevis Island Administration considers modernizing and expanding the facilities to be essential for tourism and commercial development on the island. The approved project calls for extending the runway and parking apron to facilitate commercial jet aircraft service non-stop from the U.S. mainland. Terminal redesigns and road infrastructure are also a part of the project.
The team is saying that we should have a groundbreaking ceremony next month in June, so we can proceed with that. We do not yet have the federal guarantee that we need to secure the Taiwanese funding for the land side. But since we have the airport side, money is already secured, we will proceed with that phase immediately and then try to work with the federal government on getting the other phase approved so that we can move forward on that. But at the end of the day, as somebody put it, airplanes don't need a road to land on, they need a runway to land on. So the most critical part of that development is the runway. So since we have the money for the runway, let's proceed with the runway. That's the approach that we're taking. That Vance Amory International expansion, I think, will augment what happens at RLB. Will give us additional airlift, we hope, additional routes, we hope. We see, for example, American Airlines flying from Miami to Anguilla and flying from Miami to Dominica and to Tortola. The aircraft they're using is what we're using as a design basis for the Vance Amory expansion. So we are hopeful using that Embraer model that we can get them to ultimately come here as well. So it means then that you could have flights direct from the U.S. mainland to Nevis and to St. Kitts. Smaller flights, yes, but to Nevis and to St. Kitts, which increases the capacity and the ability for airlift.
According to Premier Brantley, the upgraded airport will complement the largest single-aisle and wide-bodied aircraft services available through the Robert L. Bratcher International Airport on St. Kitts, improving overall access to the Federation. Glenn Bart reporting for Television Caribbean, TVC Channel 40.
Brooke says he will return. Outgoing Minister of Public Health, Social Development and Labor, Richard Brooke, is thanking the people of St. Martin for their support following Friday's vote of no confidence in Parliament. On May 29, Brooke received a vote of no confidence from 8 members of Parliament, with 7 voting against the motion. 2 days later, he issued a public message thanking residents for their prayers, calls, messages, and encouragement. Brooke also thanked the members of Parliament who, in his words, reviewed the facts, listened to the debate, and voted according to their conscience. While acknowledging that the outcome was not what many had hoped for, Brooke says he will return. Outgoing Minister of Public Health, Social Development and Labor, Richard Brooke, is thanking the people of St. Martin for their support following Friday's vote of no confidence in Parliament. On May 29, Brooke received a vote of no confidence from 8 members of Parliament, with 7 voting against the motion. 2 days later, he issued a public message thanking residents for their prayers, calls, messages, and encouragement. Brooke also thanked the members of Parliament who, in his words, reviewed the facts, listened to the debate, and voted according to their conscience. While acknowledging that the outcome was not what many had hoped for, Brooke says he leaves with his head held high, believing he served the people of St. Martin to the best of his ability and acted in the country's best interests. He apologized to those he has not yet been able to respond to personally, saying the support has been overwhelming. Brooke closed his message by saying this is not goodbye, but the end of one chapter and the beginning of another, adding, "You will see me again."
The invading sargassum seaweed is now blanketing the shores along Pebbles Beach in Carlisle Bay. And for some business owners and workers in the area, it is affecting sales. Co-owner of Bali Beach Club, who only gave his name as Tony, says the seaweed is preventing them from utilizing the beach to host patrons.
You can't put no deck chairs down there. You can't do anything, right? You're frightened that you could put a deck chair down there and next minute now the water will wash it away, right? So it's affecting business, as you know, we're not getting the customers, because a lot of customers want to come out there as well as sitting in our establishment. They want to come out there and go in the sea. But look, all that seaweed, look at it.
Manager at Bali, Veer, says it is not only affecting them, but also those who work along the beach.
It affects not only us, it affects the beach guys, it affects the tourists, it affects the community, and I say it's causing corrosion along the beach waves, because a lot more rocks now, as the waves are hitting shorter, it pushing more of the rocks in, and we can see all the corrosion on the beach as well.
One of the workers at Sunset Water Sports, Adrian, says income had dropped to $60 per day since the influx of seaweed.
We try yesterday to start cleaning up some of the seaweed so that people could come and relax and chill out still. Create a pathway to get down to the water, because the water clean, but the seaweed. When I was in seaweed, it's the rocks. We had high tide for 3 weeks. The boy can't bathe in the water for 3 weeks. The high tide bring the rocks now for another 2 more weeks, and now seaweed. We here 2 months now in distress. From, like I said, hundreds of dollars to help and feed, to not being able to feed.
And Chris, who runs Chris Coconut Cocktails on the beach, says every year this happens, but this year has been the worst so far.
Today we cleaned up a whole bunch. Yeah, so we're kind of used to it, but it's tough work with just a wheelbarrow and a rake. But we try, because we don't get help from anyone else. You know, we place it over there, and when the garbage guys, NCC guys come with the tractor and the truck, they pick it up from there. But we have to get it off the beach, because it'll just keep going back in the water and coming back on shore. That's all it's going to keep doing in this bay. Once it's in this bay, it's really tough to get out.
The businessmen are calling on authorities to have them rid the area of the sargassum seaweed. Rachel Agard, CBC News.
This summer, the Caribbean's premier music experience returns. Welcome to the 28th edition of the St. Kitts Music Festival, featuring the incredible Kilani, Fantasia, Beres Hammond, Luciano, Soca King Marshall Montano, Soca Sensation Voice, and Vaughn. Dancehall giant Movado, Idonia, and the new wave, Valiant. Also featuring Massacre, Cranium, Taurus Riley, Steel Pulse, Dean Fraser and the Black Soil Band, Shanil Mir, Diani, Rodney Tatat, and Zoo. The legendary New Vibes Band International, Brandon and ASAP Band, Shelly and Signal Band, plus Edwin Yearwood and Crossfire, Rukas HE, and Garlic and the Upper Level Band. June 25th to June 27th, Warner Park Cricket Stadium, St. Kitts. Get your tickets now at stkitsmusicfestival.com. The St. Kitts Music Festival, where music meets paradise.
A new day begins. The sun rises over St. Martin, bringing new energy, new possibilities. This island was built on resilience, progress, and the strength of its people. Our connection is what moves us forward. It links our communities, our businesses, our families. From the heart of the island to the shores beyond, we've connected St. Martin. From every street to every home, this network was built for St. Martin by St. Martin hands. Connection isn't just about signals, it's about people. This is your island and your network recharged. Proudly local, we're here for today, tomorrow, and every milestone ahead.
At The Cable, we believe in giving back because when our community thrives, we all do. That's why, as a company, we make it our mission to touch the lives of everyone in St. Kitts. We spearheaded the renovation of JNF Hospital lobby to ensure better care for all. The Cable sponsors free Wi-Fi in every community center across St. Kitts, so no one is left behind in an increasingly connected world. We stand with communities through every moment, big or small, in culture, education, youth development, and more. Y a ti también, comunidad latina. Cuenta con nosotros. Estamos con ustedes. And when it comes to customer service, we set the standard. We're just a call, click, or visit away because you matter to us. Join the company that truly cares. The Cable, more than service. We're family. Somos familia. And we're proud to always give more where it matters.
Lace your sneakers, grab a friend, and get ready for Praise Fest 2026, the Federation's premier gospel concert, in collaboration with St. Kitts Music Festival. Join us on the Antioch Baptist Church grounds as we praise with Tehillah Gospel Band, Unique Touch Christian Center Praise, Brent Hoyt, Positive, and Chevel Franklin. Earthen Vessels will start it off with praise and worship. This all goes down June 21st, 2026, starting at 5:30 p.m. on the Antioch Baptist Church grounds. Secure your tickets at Sister Beverly on 4th Street, Westside Service Center. The Cable, Island Flavors, Charlestown, Nevis, or any member of the Antioch Baptist Church. Or you can go online at www.antiochbaptistskn.org. Islander Water Taxis providing $40 round trip from Nevis to St. Kitts. Be first in line for an unforgettable evening.
Medical expert Dr. Winston Dawes is calling on the Ministry of Health and Wellness to establish dedicated quarantine facilities for travelers arriving from countries affected by Ebola. His recommendation follows reports that 8 passengers entering Jamaica had recently travel histories linked to affected regions.
While health officials have placed the travelers under mandatory self-quarantine and monitoring, medical expert Dr. Winston warns that self-isolation alone may not be sufficient. He argues that if any of the individuals are infected with Ebola, they could still pose a risk to others. Dr. Dawes is therefore calling for dedicated quarantine facilities to strengthen containment measures.
Incubation period can be between 2 to 21 days, and symptoms arising from a week upwards. Now, if they're asymptomatic, then they would tend to be not infectious. But once you start having symptoms, then it is extremely infective, and very few people recover from it. And there is no vaccine for this edition of the Ebola virus. So you can't trust people to self-isolate. And the other thing is that if you self-isolate in a house, then you might potentially, if it is a case of Ebola, the entire household could be infected.
Dr. Dawes is also urging the health ministry to ensure that adequate hazmat suits and other protective equipment are available for healthcare workers. He further warns that increased global travel raises the risk of Ebola spreading beyond affected regions and reaching countries such as Jamaica.
In today's world, everything is interconnected. In the old days, if you want to get it, and you go and buy a boat, it takes several days. So by the time the boat would reach harbor, everybody would have been contaminated and probably died. But you take an airplane at the beginning, you're in incubation period. You arrive here healthy. You go home and about your business. You start feel like ill with flu or whatever it is. But it's not flu, it's Ebola.
Dr. Dawes says Jamaica must remain vigilant and strengthen its preparedness measures to prevent any potential Ebola outbreak on the island.
We have to be on the alert, the doctors, nurses, and the general population, so that if they notice somebody who has traveled and they may have lied that they were in the Congo, or if they spent some time in the States with somebody who had been there and developed it. So, an unfortunate thing, the last time that they had the Ebola outbreak, the Cubans volunteered and they gave a real-time report as to what was happening. They are no longer a part of that. And there has been a cutback in the funding of the WHO from the US. In addition to that, it's occurring in a war zone. And this edition of Ebola has spread far faster and further afield than any other outbreak.
Ebola is a rare but often deadly disease caused by a group of viruses. Early symptoms include fever, severe headache, fatigue, muscle and joint pain, sore throat, and weakness. In severe cases, the illness can progress to vomiting, diarrhea, and abdominal pain. Aliyah Bryant, TVJ News.
Government has spent $300,000 since November 2022 procuring hurricane straps. So far, more than 2,000 households have benefited from those straps being affixed to their roofs. However, Minister Nichols says the time has come for more Barbadians to become aware of the program.
We are going to continue to roll out the delivery of those hurricane straps to those persons who need them. But every carpenter, every builder, every contractor would tell you the importance of strapping your roofs. So if you need information about how we can access these hurricane straps, there are teams out there, as I said, as we speak, facilitating Barbadians who require them. The government has spent the money on acquiring the housing straps, and we are going to do our best to make sure that we can make your roofs, your homes more resilient and more sturdy.
The minister says government remains committed to ensuring the island's disaster management systems are proactive, coordinative, and responsive. He says various public and private sector entities, as well as non-governmental organizations, which comprise the National Emergency Management System, have been updating, testing, and synchronizing plans and procedures since the first quarter of this year.
Over the past 2 weeks, Prime Minister Amon Motley has chaired the National Disaster Risk Management Hurricane Readiness meetings, ensuring effective national level coordination. Through the Department of Emergency Management and our National Emergency Response Agencies, we continue to enhance public awareness campaigns aimed at improving household preparedness and community resilience. We are investing in early warning systems and strengthening emergency communication networks to ensure that accurate information reaches the public quickly and efficiently before and after severe weather events.
Infrastructure resilience also remains a national priority.
Government continues to undertake drainage improvements in vulnerable communities, strengthen coastal defenses, and invest in infrastructure upgrades designed to better withstand extreme weather conditions.
Experts are predicting an average to below average 2026 Atlantic hurricane season. 6 storms and 2 hurricanes, one of which can become a major system, are being forecast. Director of the Barbados Meteorological Services, Sabu Best, says Barbadians can also expect average to below average rainfall, dry periods in the rainy season, and El Niño to continue to support above normal temperatures during the heat season. But Mr. Best does not want Barbadians to take the below average season for granted and to slip into a state of complacency.
It only takes one major hurricane. And that slide I showed you before from the 2025 season, where there was only one hurricane, and that one hurricane went on to be a major hurricane, that could track through the region and be devastating. It only takes one. It wasn't an active season, but it only takes one. That's the important thing.
Stakeholders, including the Barbados Defense Force, Caribbean Broadcasting Union, as well as Sagicor General Insurance, Inc., are joining the call for Barbadians to get ready and to stay ready this hurricane season. Onesta Henry, CBC News.
Amid ongoing debate about transparency and accountability in Jamaica, regional anti-corruption experts warn the fight against corruption cannot afford to lose momentum. The issue was raised at the 12th Annual Caribbean Conference of Accountants, Investigators and Anti-Corruption Bodies press briefing, where calls were also made for states to properly fund anti-corruption agencies. At a time when questions continue to swirl about accountability and oversight in Jamaica, anti-corruption agencies say the region must remain steadfast in its effort to tackle corruption.
It is a state institution, and they are providing such an important work, and therefore the state must resource them.
The call came on the opening day of the annual Caribbean Conference of Accountants, Investigators and Anti-Corruption Bodies, where several local agencies joined regional counterparts to discuss the evolving challenges facing investigators. The conference comes against the backdrop of concerns and ongoing debates surrounding the non-tabling of certain Integrity Commission reports. This was Executive Director of the Integrity Commission, Craig Beresford.
A lot of the problems that we have, Parliament needs to act to ensure that it does not continue. We can't have an Integrity Commission that is established to do what it is expected to do based on the legislation, and then we're prevented to do it effectively. So it's really analyzing the problems as they manifest themselves and seeing how best we can fix those problems. And you will notice I'm not being too specific, right? And that is intentional. But we do have recommendations in our annual reports, and I can assure you there will be more recommendations coming now based on what we see happening.
Despite questions from members of the public about the effectiveness of anti-corruption efforts, Dr. Karan Tang from the Commonwealth Secretariat argued that the fight remains necessary.
Somebody will ask, but what have you achieved? We still have corruption. My question is simple. Why do we have police? If you have police, does it mean that crime have stopped? But the fact of the matter is that if you don't have the police, you see what will happen.
Meanwhile, the major organized crime and anti-corruption agency MOCA says the nature of financial crimes is becoming sophisticated, forcing law enforcement agencies to evolve rapidly. Colonel Desmond Edwards pointed to the growing use of technology.
I think we're in a position now to effectively face the challenges. The point was made that you will never fully stamp out corruption, but our aim really is to impact it significantly. Go for the big fish.
As the discussions continue for the next 2 days, the participants say corruption may never be eradicated, but the effort to detect and investigate must continue in order to maintain public trust.
As preparations intensify for the start of the 2026 local women's football season, the St. Kitts and Nevis Football Association, the SKNFA, will host two major events this weekend aimed at promoting player welfare and growing the women's game. On Friday, June 5th, the SKNFA, in partnership with the St. Kitts and Nevis Red Cross, will conduct a first aid and safeguarding training program for women in football at the National Bank Group Technical Center at 5 p.m. The initiative is designed to equip participants with essential skills to respond to emergencies and ensure a safe environment for players. SKNFA head of women's football, Kayla Huggins, emphasized the importance of the training program for women involved in the sport.
So this Friday on the 5th, we're going to be having our first safeguarding workshop. Now, this workshop is basically going to be covering the 4 pillars of football, which is definitely going to be rendered by our TD. And the main focus is going to be first aid, which we have collaborated with Red Cross for them to come out and just give us the basic rundown as it relates to first aid around football itself. The invitees are females from at least one female from per club to come out and, get knowledge surrounding safeguarding, first aid. So when you're with your girls or with your team, you know what to do as it relates to any injury or anything that happens,
She explained that the workshop will feature both theoretical and practical components, allowing participants to gain hands-on experience while learning first aid and safeguarding principles.
It's going to be hands-on, practical as well. I have spoken to individuals at Red Cross, and I don't think they're about just theory. So they're going to be doing some hands-on stuff for the females to understand what they should do. When you learn the theoretical part of it, you have to know how to put it in action. So the workshop is definitely going to be, engaging.
The activities continue on Saturday with a female football festival at the same venue. According to Ms. Huggins, the festival will provide an opportunity for participants from the training program to apply some of the skills and knowledge acquired during the workshop.
We will be encouraging them to come out on the 6th, which will be the festival, so that we could see them putting whatever they have learned at the workshop into action on the 5th for the festival, on the 6th for the festival. Festival focuses on just coming out, no club-related team. You just come out. You will be put into a random selection team. So you might be even paired up with your rival. So that's the point of it, just to come out, have fun, relax, and just enjoy football for the first time instead of being in a competitive environment. So that's the purpose of the festival on the 6th.
The Female Football Festival is scheduled to begin at 2:30 p.m. on Saturday, June 6th at the National Bank Group Technical Center and is open to females of all ages. The weekend activities come just about a week before the official start of the women's football season, which kicks off with the President's Cup on June 14th.